Hmm? Good evening, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the Marion City Council meeting for Thursday, October 5th. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Mr. Miskman.
Here.
Mr. Jensen.
Here.
Mr. Harper.
Here.
Mayor Abu Osley.
Here.
Mr. Brandt.
Here.
Ms. Menser. Here. Mr. Sternad.
Here. Okay, thank you. This time we have our moment of silence. Thank you. First on our agenda is a proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. I've asked our former volunteer firefighter, Councilmember Sternad, to present the proclamation, and accepting it will be our fire chief and some members of our fire department.
Thank you, Mayor. So everyone's coming up. Thank you so much. Anyone else from the fire department we're expecting?
They're on a call.
They're on a call. They're doing exactly as they're trained to do. Thank you so much. Well, it's my great honor tonight to be able to read our proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. So whereas the city of Marion, Iowa is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our community, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes in the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas house fires cause the deaths of 2,800 people in the United States in 2021, according to the National Fire Protection Association, and the fire departments in the United States responded to 338,000 home fires. And whereas cooking is the leading cause of house fires in the United States, and fire departments responded to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 2020. And whereas 2 of every 5 house fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of these fires resulting from unattended cooking. And whereas more than half of reported non-fatal cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves, and children under 5 face a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking. And whereas Marion's residents should turn hot handles towards the back of the stove, always keep a lid nearby when cooking, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around the stove, oven, and other things that could get hot, watch what they heat and eat, set a timer to remind them that they are cooking. And whereas Marion residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas Marion residents should make sure their smoke alarms meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities. And whereas Marion's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of house fires and house fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety Starts with You. Pay attention to fire prevention effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution while cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Therefore, I, Randy Sternad, on behalf of Nicholas Abwasli, Mayor of Marion, Iowa, do hereby proclaim October 8th through the 14th of 2023 as Fire Prevention Week. In the city of Marion, I urge all residents to check their kitchens for fire hazards, use safe cooking practices during Fire Prevention Week for 2023, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts the Marion Fire Department and Emergency Services. Way to go. Way to go.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Chief, would you like to say anything? Okay.
Just a few quick comments. When we talk about fire prevention, members of the fire department are here. We do have a very diverse approach to fire prevention. Obviously, our first responders who are out responding to calls, as you heard a little bit ago, but also our code enforcement officials that extend beyond the fire department through the building department and across the city as well are really a part of community risk reduction, as are families, parents, the school districts. Everyone is a part of fire prevention. And so fire prevention is something that we can all reflect upon, and it's a very important item to bring to attention. So thank you very much, Mayor and Randy, for your comments and the proclamation for next week. And stay safe, everyone, and reflect on the safety things that you have in your home to prevent a fire. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another proclamation this evening, which is for National Disability Employment Awareness Month. I've asked our well-dressed council member, Gage Miskimen, to read that proclamation. And we have Megan from the Civil Rights Commission to accept the proclamation. Welcome.
Whereas workplaces valuing and welcoming of the talents of all people, including people with disabilities, are a critical part of our efforts to build a diverse and inclusive community. And whereas this year's theme for National Disability Employment Awareness Month is Advancing Access and Equity in honor of the 50th anniversary of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Whereas in this spirit, the city of Marion, Iowa is recognizing National Disability Employment Awareness Month to raise awareness about disability employment issues and celebrate the many and varied contributions of people with disabilities to our workplaces. And whereas activities in our city during this month are encouraged to celebrate and reinforce the value and talent people with disabilities add to our workplaces and communities, and affirm the city of Marion's commitment to a diverse and inclusive community that values all people. Now, therefore, I, Gage Miskimen, on behalf of Nicholas Abwasli, Mayor of the City of Marion, Iowa, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as National Disability Employment Awareness Month in the City of Marion, Iowa, and call upon employers, schools, and other community organizations in Marion to observe this month with appropriate programs and activities, and to advance its important message that people with disabilities add value as contributing members of our community and workforce. Thank you.
As a Marion Civil Rights Commissioner, it is my duty to let everybody know that if you have any questions regarding any of your civil rights, including this, you're always welcome to go to the website for the City of Marion, or you can come to our civil rights meetings. You also are able to reach out to us at any time, and we have more information that we can provide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening is a presentation on Uptown Marion Main Street Iowa program by Brooke Prouty, who's the director of the Main Street program.
Thank you, Your Honor. I also have Ben Davis with me. He's the owner of the Chocolate Shop and our current board president, who's going to help me with the presentation today.
Welcome.
So Uptown Marion, we are in Uptown Marion. You are all familiar with Uptown Marion, but our organization might not be as familiar. We were established in 2013, so our program is officially 10 years old this year. It's about 20+ square block district, 165 buildings, 128 businesses, and around 281 residents. This is a map. We like to say it kind of looks like a submarine, but it goes up north, so it encompasses the Granger House and some of those historic assets to our community. So what is the designated Main Street district? We're part of a bigger grassroots movement to enliven our downtown districts that's all across the nation. This approach was developed by the National Main Street Center and is economic development within the context of historic preservation. So we're not looking to make museums. We're looking to make a really vital district within the context of historic buildings that give them character and a sense of place. There are over 1,000 Main Street communities within the United States, and Iowa has 54 Main Street communities. Those are all accredited communities, and Lynn County has 3. Mount Vernon, Czech Nubo is 1 together, and Uptown is the 3rd. Today you will have on your agenda our program agreement. This is required through that certification process with Main Street Iowa and Main Street America in order to maintain a great relationship with the city. And they also like to see that the program has city support and is welcome within the community. And that just leads to greater success overall for a Main Street program. So since the program started 10 years ago, we've seen $47 million in private investment invested into the Uptown District, 3.7 million in state grants to rehab different buildings, but also as part of the Plaza project, and we've seen some grant money through the Artway project. We have had 136 business starts and expansions and almost 12,000 volunteer hours. This is a short video. So we applied for the Great American Main Street Award. This is the peak level award. If you reach the final 8, you've kind of made it. We were told that when you apply for the Main Street Award, don't expect to get it on your first year. Most of them, 90% of them, have to apply 2, 3, 4, 5 times to get on the radar of the National Main Street. So this is a video we submitted. We're super proud of it. We think it really shows off the progress that we've made in our district, and we plan to apply next year and maybe the year after that, because we're really proud of the work that we've done over the past few years. I'm gonna press play here. So that is our video. We plan to apply next year. What they really like to see is a community that's overcome something and that has made great strides. We feel like we've done that and we're gonna keep doing that with the Plaza project, and next year we'll have an even stronger application. So thank you for everyone that participated in that video and for your letter of support for that application. I want to now bring up Ben.
Good evening. My name is Ben Davis. I am a building owner, a business owner, and the president of the Uptown Advisor Board. First, we'd just like to thank Will Brandt and Nicole Behrens. They represent the city on our advisor board, and the information that they bring to us and enable us to do our jobs or our roles as volunteer advisors is a huge asset. So we really appreciate the time that they give to us there. On the screen in front of you is our current top priorities. These are the guiding principles of what we do as the Uptown Marion District Board and our subcommittees. So everything that we do, we make sure that it ties back into one of our guiding priorities to really focus on increasing the foot traffic, the vitality, and the amount of investment in the Main Street District in Uptown Marion. We are currently working on digging deeper into these to make them a better strategic goal so that we can continue the progress that we've made over the last couple of years and make sure that we don't just stagnate where we're at and continue to move forward, looking towards the future of Marion. We recently had a visit from Carol Lilly from the Main Street Iowa organization. She had a lot great to say about Marion. She continued to brag that she uses Marion and the Main Street District here as an example to other communities when she travels, the other 50+ communities. Some of the things that she really wanted to stress is, or that she shared as quotes that she had while meeting people, was talking about how we are a festival and event forward community, how we really try and have a reputation of working well together between the Uptown, the Main Street, the Chamber, the city, and everybody as a whole to make the whole community better and grow. And then she really was proud of how we have been really focused on continuing to push the organization forward.
When I had talked to Carol, she had told me that she had pre-written her report in her mind on the way here. And it was what she usually expects from communities that have just completed a massive project like our streetscape project. They usually kind of lose vision after that. They take a break, they rest after that. But she said that was not the case here. She was really impressed that we have a plan, that we're moving forward, and we've got a lot still in the works, even after completing such a massive project. So what is on the docket currently? We have a lot going on, but this is as it relates with our partnership with the city. Currently, we work really well together on community events. We're working on the library site RFP process with Medco and the city. We're participating in the city's parking study, wayfinding study, giving input on the vacant building ordinance. And we also participated in helping with the business improvement grants that was the ARPA funding. And in the future, we're working on collaboration on our new website, a potential for a SMID district, Uptown Wi-Fi, Plaza, and so much more. So we're always open to feedback also on other ways we can collaborate. Lastly, just 8 guiding principles of Main Street. It's incremental, it's quality, it's a private-public partnership, it's changing attitudes, it's comprehensive, it's focusing on existing assets, it is self-help, and it is implementation oriented. So the one I always like to point out is it is incremental. This stuff doesn't happen overnight, and it's taken us 10 years to get where we are today, but we have a long way to go. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Questions for Brooke? Go ahead.
Brooke, first off, to both you, Ben, the entire team over the last several years, congratulations for the effort that you've exerted on this. I mean, the outreach to our businesses, the coordination with them as Streetscape was unfolding as a project, interface back into our engineering team, and everybody has been exceptional. You mentioned the taking a look at a SMID can you, district, can you just, for the record and for others that might not know what that is, could you just briefly describe what that entity is?
Yeah, so a lot of larger districts, in order to maintain them, they take a higher level of funding to maintain them. And to also run programs, marketing and events. So a lot of districts, the building owners come together, and we like to describe it as a commercial HOA. So they agree to pool their funding together in order to fund maintenance and other amenities. There's a long list of different things that could fund, but it's really driven by the building owners themselves agreeing to put funding into a pool.
Okay.
We'll be meeting about that next week with the building owners. So more to come on that, but it is kind of that next step for a Main Street. There's quite a few within the state of Iowa that have them. They're also known as BID districts, business improvement districts.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, with that description, I think Cedar Rapids has
Downtown.
multiple.
They
of
have
them.
quite a few,
Yeah,
the
okay.
MedQ, the Nubo Czech Village, and also the downtown district, and I think maybe even the one on the other side of the river.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks for that
Mhm.
background.
Other questions? Go ahead, Steve.
Just a comment again. The example I use is many years ago when I was the chairman of the Marion Chamber of Commerce. If we wanted people from Cedar Rapids to come over here, we had to give them a map on how to get here. And that's tongue in cheek, but I'm really serious about it. Today, collectively, everything that's been done in Marion, the 10 years of success that your group has done has flipped that 180 degrees, and people in Cedar Rapids now are always talking about what's happening in Marion. So congratulations.
Anyone else? Thank you.
We will be coming back in January with our annual report. So this is just a presentation based off of our accreditation agreement.
Yeah. I'll just add my comments. I think affiliating with Main Street is probably one of the best decisions we've ever made. Prior to that, we had a culture and entertainment district committee that sort of dreamed about what could happen down here, but no one knew how to make those things happen. We all had a lot of ideas. We didn't know who would own that those ideas and to actually make them happen. And the affiliation with Main Street gave us that vehicle, and just the resources that we get and the level of support we get through the Main Street program is just invaluable. So we've seen all the grants that are available that have helped to redo all the facades of the buildings uptown, the various grant competitions every year for businesses, and just the support in terms of design and ideas, and it's very valuable. So thank you for all the work, and please pass along our gratitude to your board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is a presentation by our city engineer, Project of the Year Award for the Central Corridor project.
Yeah, Your Honor, so I get to piggyback off of the video that you just saw with that amazing project that we did over the past 2 years. Last week, Thursday last week, we actually went down to Iowa City and went and got this award. So it's the Project of the Year Award for transportation greater than $2.5 million from the American Public Works Association Iowa section. And by winning this at the Iowa section level, they actually submit it to national. So next year it'll be actually a nomination for national. So we'll see where that goes. But on behalf of City of Marion staff, I'd like to present this to City Council, and then we can add it to our ever-growing trophy wall. So if anyone would like to come down and accept this.
Thank you.
That project is really a great example of how Marion collaborates between the city, the Chamber of Commerce, the businesses, the community as a whole. Everyone came together and really made that project a great success. So thank you to everyone and congratulations on the award. Okay, next we have a public forum, which is a time that's set aside for comments from members of the public on any topic that is listed on the agenda but not associated with a public hearing. At the end of the agenda, there will be another public comment section for any comments, but at this time, we'll take comments to the council on any topic that is on the agenda but not part of a public hearing. Is there anyone here to address council? Please come forward. You might check with the city clerk if you're wondering if you should be part of this section. Is there anyone here to address council? All right, we'll close this part of the meeting and we'll move on to the next section, the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda. This will include items A1 through F3, and this includes resolution numbers 31616 to 31623. It will include 31625 and 31626. Item F1, which is resolution number 31624, has been removed from the agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Jensen, seconded by Councilmember Harper to approve the consent agenda, items A1 through F3, including resolutions 31616 to 31623 and 31625 and 31626. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. For the next section, I will turn over the meeting to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the consent agenda with Mayor Aboasley's abstention as follows. Items E1 through F1, resolutions 31627 through 31629.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the mayor's abstention as follows. Items E1 through F1, resolutions 31627 through 31629. Any discussion? Very good. All those in favor of the consent agenda as stated, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Back to the mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 23-25, amending section 55-8 regarding scheduled violations, subsection 218-3 regarding noise enforcement fines, and chapter 309-5C regarding vehicles, all-terrain, off-road utility, and snowmobiles of the Marion Code of Ordinances, second consideration.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the second consideration of ordinance number 23-25, amending section 55-8 regarding scheduled violations and subsection 218-3 regarding noise enforcement, fines in chapter 309-5C regarding vehicles, all-terrain and off-road utility, snowmobiles in the Marion Code of Ordinances. Discussion? All those in favor of approving ordinance number 23-25, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Mayor, move to direct staff to proceed with curbside collection strategy scenario A1 and authorizing implementation thereof.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to direct staff to proceed with curbside collection strategy scenario A1 and authorizing the implementation thereof. Discussion? Yes, go ahead,
I
Steve.
think we just want to at least mention to anybody that may be listening to this that we will be discussing at a future time what the options will be for the size of the containers that people can utilize at their home. So that has not been decided. It's not part of this recommendation. This allows us to know what equipment to order. But the containers and all of that will be a future discussion. So I know at least a lot of people I've talked to, that's been one of the main parts of the discussion. So please understand that will be coming at a later date.
Okay, and just for the benefit of people who are wondering what we're talking about, this is for automated trash collection, which has been discussed quite a bit in the community and people have asked for. So the council engaged a consultant who did a study and came up with recommendations, and we've chosen one of the recommendations. So any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion directing staff to proceed with the curbside collection strategy scenario A1 and authorizing the implementation, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. At this time, we have a public comment period regarding the addition of a rectangle rapid flashing beacon at the intersection of McGowan and 35th Street. We have a presentation from our city engineer.
Yes, Your Honor. So we received a couple petitions actually for this intersection. Some of them that we talked to were very adamant that they needed it for the pool operations, and so that's why we did it during the summer months. So we actually had staff sit out here and count pedestrians that use the intersection. That's in the TAC report. There's several TAC recommendations that are in the report on the last page. So moving the 30-mile-per-hour sign so that it matches with the ordinance that's in place. Deploying the automatic traffic enforcement vehicle that we have that's mobile to keep the speeds down. Continue to mark the crosswalks and the existing signage. And then there's also advanced signage, so the signs that just say crosswalk ahead. And then there were some trees that were on the west side of the road, south of the intersection. Those have actually already been trimmed by our Parks Department. The arborist took care of that. And then continue to monitor the intersection. There were the vehicles, the traffic accidents that we had were broadside where they failure to stop from either the east or west condition. So it's a potential mini roundabout or large roundabout in the future. And then an RFB was looked at just for awareness. An RFB you do not want to put at a signal or at an intersection. You actually want to put it mid-block. For example, a car coming from McGowan Boulevard, and if the beacon is flashing, they can't see it if it's at the intersection. So that's why you want to actually move it to the mid-block. So it would have to be moved between Park Crest and McGowan Boulevard or south of Park Crest and not put at the intersection. And sometimes then they don't want to take that extra step to go a little bit farther to actually use the beacon and just bypass it. So that's something to take into consideration as well. And so the recommendation was not to install that beacon. I know that we'll have comments from Rachel from some emails that we got, and I'm sure there's some people in the audience that would like to speak about this as well.
Okay, so we will come back with questions for the city engineer when we get to the motion. At this time, the public comment section is open. Is anyone here to address council on this matter? Please come forward. Please come forward, state your name and address. Yep. And you can hand the card to the city clerk. Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks. My name's Ann Wells. I live at 1930 39th Street, Marion. Thank you for taking time to consider this petition and for completing the study over the summer. And I really appreciate that a priority that I see in Marion is access to trails and access to walking areas. That's something that I really love about this area, and I'm grateful for that. I do have 3 kids who walk to Wilkins Elementary every single day, and they have to cross this street. 2 of them walk during a time when there's a crossing guard. And one of them has to walk at an earlier hour because he has to catch a shuttle bus to Boulder Peak. So he does not have a crossing guard at that time. But it is something that I think about every single day because it is a busy street, and it's something that makes me nervous and something that I'm concerned about. I have crossed that section many, many times, and even it makes me a little bit nervous. Very, very rarely do I ever see a car stop for a pedestrian who's waiting to cross. They usually, you just have to wait till there's a break in the traffic. Occasionally I have witnessed a kind car driving out into the intersection to assist and aid children crossing the street because there's just so much traffic there. But I do hope, I understand that if there were to be a rapid flashing beacon, that it would have to be, the crosswalk would have to be moved. But I think that whatever steps we can take to help these kids get across safely during the times when there's not a crossing guard, even with a crossing guard, I would be very grateful for that. And if it's okay, I just want to read a statement that my son, who's here, wrote. He said, "My name is William Wells. He's 11 years old. I go to Boulder Peak Intermediate. I have to walk to Wilkins in the morning and take a shuttle. There's no crossing guard working at this time, and sometimes I'm nervous and I have to wait a while. I would really like to have something extra to catch the attention of drivers to help me cross safely." And then just read a quick statement from my daughter, Rosie. She's 8. "My name is Rosie, and I walk to Wilkins every day. Normally I cross with a crossing guard, but if I ever cross the street when the crossing guard isn't there, sometimes it can be scary. Sometimes I like to ride my bike to Tobby Park, but my dad says no because of the busy road that I have to cross. I usually have to wait for someone to let me cross, but that can take a while. I hope we can have a better way to cross the road safely. Thank you very much."
Thank you. Any other comments? Please come forward. State your name and address.
My name is Jessica Hora, and I live on McGowan at 4110 McGowan Boulevard. I have my 2 sons with me, and we have to cross 35th and McGowan all the time. I've grew up in Marion, and that corner has been scary since I was little, and it hasn't changed since now. I'm worried that one of my children are gonna get hit crossing that road. Cars go so fast. Car accidents happen there all the time. They run into one of the houses. The fence has been taken out millions of times because people just a busy corner. People are turning right, left, going straight, they're speeding. And then my son also has to take the shuttle bus and has to cross that road in the morning. I think we need to have the people come back out and sit there during the school year and watch, because now we have all these other children taking the shuttle bus. So we got way more traffic coming, kids walking. And I would hate for somebody to get hit. And it's just kind of a matter of time.
Please state your name.
Hi, I'm Jason, and I had to walk to Wilkins to catch the shuttle bus in the morning. Every time I go, I get a little scared because like cars mainly just speed by.
So we have to find the right time to dart across the street because there's no crossing guard. There's no mom to stand with him at the corner and tell him, do not cross that road yet, because it is not safe. And he's on a time limit to get to the bus. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please come forward. State your name and address.
Sorry, I'm nervous. Hi, my name's Taylor Norton. I live on 2815 McGowan Boulevard, and I'm actually on the side that my kids don't have to cross that road, but I know all about getting the kids to school and how hard that is during the school year. And I actually, when we go to walk to the pool, then I have 3 little ones, like they're not old enough to come and talk. So when I'm trying to take them to like the swimming pool during the summer or something like that. I'm epileptic. I'm epileptic and I can't drive. I have to walk places. So when I'm trying to go to the swimming pool and I have little ones that I'm trying to walk with, and they're of course at the age that they want to walk it themselves. They're like, Mom, I can do it myself, and you only have so many hands to be like, hold my hand, even on a normal road, like when I'm walking them to Wilkins and it's not that busy of a street where I'm at, and I have to hold on for dear my life to get them across the street. Okay, without, being scared to death. And so when it's a busier road like that one, like it's just so scary to think about how do I get them? We're just trying to have a fun, it scares me half to death thinking like, we're trying to just go have a fun day at the pool. And it always scares me, is this gonna be the day that, something, when we're just trying to go have a fun day to go swimming or something, that something horrible, I'm gonna end up having to call my husband and tell him that, sorry, I just, one of our kids just got hit and he's gonna blame me for the rest of our lives or something. So sorry, that's all I just had to say with that. Thank you for considering.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Please come forward. Okay, we'll ask the staff if we received comments outside the meeting.
We received 5 comments in advance of the meeting. Mary Jo Adams wrote in support of installation of the RFB. Kara and Jason Bowman wrote in support. Daniel Hennon wrote in support. Elizabeth Coder wrote in support, and Aaron Wells wrote in support of the installation of that device.
And those are all the comments we received outside the meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so no one else is coming forward. We'll close this, the public comment.
Mayor, I move to receive and file Traffic Advisory Committee report regarding the addition of a rectangle rapid flashing beacon at the intersection of McGowan and 35th Street.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to receive and file the Traffic Advisory Committee report regarding the addition of a rectangle rapid flashing beacon at the intersection of McGowan and 35th Street. Discussion on the motion to receive and file. Go ahead.
Sorry. If I'm looking at our memo and I'm trying to discern, is the mailing that was done, TAC September 12, 23 mailing edited, is that the body of the tax report? What I'm looking for is there discreetly a TAC report attached to the staff or staff memo?
Yeah, so it should be the one that starts with TAC memo at the top.
Okay, that's it.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Steve?
Yeah, so I mean, I lived only a few blocks from this intersection, so I see all of the traffic, all of the walking traffic. I see the kids going to and from school all the time. I guess one thing I just learned this evening that I did not know, I always thought, well, if you're talking about the need for something else, a rectangle rapid flashing beacon, I thought that was going to be needed just for the summertime. But I did not know that kids were having to go to Wilkins to catch a connecting bus to go to Boulder Peak. I don't know what kind of a time difference that is between when the crossing guard is there. I don't know if that's something that that Linmar might be able to get involved in, maybe to extend the crossing guard time. So I don't know what's involved with that. But I do have a concern that even if we were to put in a rectangle rapid flashing beacon, and you have to put it further down, almost, quite a ways down from that intersection, that how many kids would be walking on McGowan, go down, cross, and then go back up, or would they still want to try to take the shortest route and shoot across McGowan? So, I mean, it's a very busy intersection. It always has been, and there's nothing I can see in the future that is ever going to change that because of the location of Wilkins and the vast number of kids that live east of it. So I think we need to continue to monitor this and see what other options we have. I don't know if we need this yet. I thought the write-up was looking for it just for the summertime. But again, I think there's a need to do something to help the kids that are going at times when there's not a crossing guard. So I think we need to continue to look at this intersection because there is a huge amount of traffic, I think throughout the entire year, so.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I'm going to concur with that, and I'm going to kind of tie it back to two areas that we've done studies with, but we have not focused on this particular school. And it comes back to it does come back to the safe routes to school. Unfortunately for the city, the changes that Linmar made to busing has impacted our infrastructure on a very late notice, in making sure that we have things put in to get kids to school. And I mean, we can't flip everything in the town on a month or two notice of what we have to do with some of these intersections. However, as you know, I've been a champion and a passionate supporter of the Safe Routes to School program. And prior to COVID, we actually, when I was a volunteer and not on a council, we had approval from the council to be moving forward with we called it Safe Routes to Parks and Public Places. It came off of a study we did with Lynn County Public Health and a nationwide group that had come together. We'd be the first in Iowa. And I see this as that again, until there's any changes to our aquatics, but that would still probably be a park on that spot. We're looking at how our families and our community members and individuals are getting to these hubs of gathering within our area. So you have the school piece of it, plus you have this park space. And I don't have an answer because I know that we've run into problems with funding, with changes to national funding on Safe Routes to School. We've run into this on the trail. So I know that our hands are a little tied, but I don't like to just say, well, we can't really help, because I agree. This has become a main cut through road. This is a main road in our community, and we have kids crossing it and we have families crossing it. So I feel that, and I'd like to, if it doesn't work to do that beacon, and if a roundabout is a ways out, I do want to continue to have discussions with the neighborhoods and the areas on some potential solutions or what else we could be doing besides even slowing down traffic. Because we know even 30 miles an hour through there is still, people are going to go 34. If we say 35, they're going to go 39. So people are still going to be going rapidly through that area. So I hate to just say no. I'd like to continue the conversations to figure out what we could be doing and working with all the entities, because I think we all know what has to happen, and I just don't know what it is with funding availability to do it.
Gage?
Yeah, I agree. I see the points of not having the rectangle rapid flashing beacon, but I agree with my colleagues that I think this is still obviously a concern because children are crossing. I remember biking across that intersection to get to the Marion Pool all the time and darting before the cars come. So I totally get that. And this might be a silly question, Mike, but is there too much traffic on 35th to have like a four-way stop at 35th and McGowan, whether it's stop signs or stop lights? I'm guessing.
Yeah. Again, we could do a traffic study to determine that, but yeah, I would not recommend putting a four-way stop in there just based on high level numbers. Everybody thinks that that's the solution, but because these are both major roads, then we're gonna have major backups on that.
Sure.
So unfortunately, we have to look at it multifaceted. We can't look at it just the pedestrian use, but we also can't look at it as just the vehicular use either.
Yeah. Well, then, yeah, I agree with Sarah, and I think obviously we still need to look at this and see what more we can do with as many children that are crossing that street.
So I think city staff understands that usually I'm very standards compliant. What is the standard that guides our decision making? And in this particular case, I think there are some potentially compelling reasons we might want to be more conservative than what our standards suggest to us. The first one that comes to mind is, a year ago, we did the diamond milling of that section of of 35th, if I remember correctly. Is that?
Possibly, I know we've done it.
I think it goes that far north. The only point of what I am thinking there is, prior to that milling, there were natural speed bumps. And, okay, I'm just, that's how I thought about it. Maybe I was sensitive to that because of the vehicle I was driving. I don't know. But nonetheless, it is a smoother flow of travel through there based on that milling. And I guess, given the fact that there are some number of children that are having to go to Wilkins to catch a shuttle bus, and I don't know how pervasive that is. That's a data point that I think we should understand from the school district. How many kids are having to get to Wilkins from east of this area in order to get to the proper school? Just the fact that that's happening, and given that that's off cycle relative to the posting of crossing guards, I'm not sure what a flashing sign would cost, but I'm of the mind, from a very conservative safety perspective, to let's get one installed for at least the period of time that we might otherwise have solutions to this. And so I guess I'm just stating my favoritism to having a light in place in order to at least try to mitigate the risk factors for our students going across the street.
I don't think you can answer this, Mike, and this may be a question is circle back to the parents or in a follow-up report. I just had this thought, because the reason that the shuttle is running from Wilkins to Boulder Peak, because the other option for these families is not to walk to Wilkins, but to walk north and cross 29th to get to Boulder Peak, is my understanding of that, right? So they're either faced with crossing this road, and I'm not saying it's one of the others better, because we have enough people using it in general, but you're either crossing this, or part of the concern was having to cross 29th for the folks south of 29th. So we're kind of getting two issues that are running together on major roads that are kind of disconnecting the community. And I'm seeing a nod, so I'm thinking that's accurate, that those are your options, right? And that's what's impacting that additional traffic, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay. To the actual motion.
Okay. You'll wait?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Just for clarity, this item is the motion to receive and file the report. And then the next motion will be on the recommendation of the staff. So any more comments on the motion to receive and file the report? Okay, we'll vote on that. All those in favor of receiving and filing the Traffic Advisory Committee report, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, the motion is approved.
Mayor, I make a motion to direct staff to move the 30 miles per hour sign on 35th Street for southbound traffic from Park Crest Court to McGowan Boulevard, to deploy the automated traffic enforcement vehicle on 35th Street, and continue the recommended maintenance of the intersection.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to direct staff to move the 30-mile-per-hour sign on 35th Street from southbound traffic southbound traffic from Park Crest Court to McGowan Boulevard, and deploy the automatic traffic enforcement vehicle on 35th Street, and continue the recommended maintenance of the intersection. Now, discussion. You had something to add, Grant?
Yes. On the prior item, I think I overdrove my headlights, pun intended. So I agree at a minimum with what this recommendation is in terms of initial actions. I'm just saying that in my ultimate review of this, or view of this issue, I agree with those actions, but I only think they're incremental and should lead us to a rapid decision. Let's put in the flashing warning. That's what I'm saying. And so I'm not going to on E3, I'm not going to vote against that because that's incremental improvement. I'm just saying, I think we can exercise a higher degree of safety conservatism and put in the signals. That's my position.
Yeah, go ahead. Grant, would you like to make a motion to make an amendment to this to add the rapid flashing beacon into this resolution or?
Well,
motion?
so in doing so, Will, I'm fearful that will gum up the works on E3 and slow that down.
Well, we would have to, it would have to be
I know.
approved by us to actually add it.
I guess what I would really like all of us to independently, discreetly think about the addition of, look at the area. Maybe we learn some things from the school district, in terms of numbers of students that are having to transit. Although I don't know that makes all that big of a difference, but it is a data point. And I guess I'm just thinking of let us address that signal in a singular manner at such time we have a little bit more data in order to weigh in on that. And also for my colleagues just to process the comments I'm making tonight. So I don't know. Your Honor, how would you like to proceed?
I agree with Grant's position on it. I mean, this motion doesn't preclude at some point in the future, adding the flashing beacon. I think we should look at it more. I think this is a beginning step. I would just like to hear can you just explain again, Mike, the reasons why you wouldn't want a flashing beacon there?
Sure. So we do get more and more of these requests, and you'll actually see one likely coming at the next council meeting as well for those wanting to cross 29th Avenue, which is also another one. So the issue that we have right now, all of our RFBs or rectangular rapid flashing beacons are there at school crossings or trail crossings where we have more pedestrians. If we start putting these at every intersection, they lose their effectiveness. So pretty soon you're just gonna see flashing lights everywhere and then you just become numb to it. Similar to maybe the sign pollution that you notice on South 11th, there's so many signs, you don't know what sign to look at. And so we wanna make sure that we're putting these in places that we desperately need them. And that's why we did the pedestrian counts to see actually how many people use it. It could be something too, where if we want to do it during school hours, we can do it again. I don't know that I have the staff time to do it yet this fall, but we could look at it in the spring. And do counts again and see if it changes from the summer versus during school now that they're not busing. So that could be part of the motion as well. But we just have to be careful about what we put up there. We can put warning signs everywhere, but then and even the manual and uniform traffic control devices, which is what we follow, states that you start putting warning signs everywhere, then they just become mute.
What are there other options besides the flashing beacon? Are there other options that would improve the safety? I mean, I know that roundabout, somebody mentioned roundabout, but.
Yeah, so right now, as you're approaching this intersection, I can't pull up Street View obviously, but there's the actual symbol of a crosswalk with the arrow. The crosswalks are painted with the 6 foot wide bars. And then even farther to the south and to the north, there's the crosswalk ahead signs. So there's a lot that's already there to make people aware. I can tell you even with speed limit signs. So by moving that speed limit sign farther north, that should slow cars down, assuming they actually look at the sign. So there's just a lot of things that are in the works that we can do. We could do a further traffic analysis. There might be other alternatives, but again, we started with what the request was and went from there.
Okay, so we're not closing the door on further measures. This is a start. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I understand their comments about that we should be considering a beacon now. And I think if we don't do it tonight, certainly I think we need to monitor this and give it due consideration in the future. It's going to come up more often. Since it's going to come up at another meeting talking about flashing beacons, and you said, well, we're already having too many of them. Maybe you can let us know how many there are because at least where I drive, I don't think I'm getting mobbed by too many flashing beacons. The concern one, as I think about that intersection, again, I'm there all the time. Is there a concern of having a flashing beacon across a 3-lane road? Now, I can see the kids, if they're crossing on McGowan Boulevard, crossing 35th Street, they know there's a concern about the cars. But if I think about a flashing beacon, does that give them a point where they think it's just because the beacon's on that they can safely go across? And it's a 3-lane road, and I've seen cars there where you're just turning right and they're not supposed to pass you in the middle lane, but cars do it all the time.
Yeah.
So I've got a concern of a flashing beacon on a 3-lane road. Is that more of a danger or does that make any difference in your opinion?
So we would have to increase the amount of time that it flashes for. So
Okay.
it's not like a normal, say, PED crossing where it gives you a countdown.
Right.
Of when to go, when to stop going, or you got 10 seconds to cross before the light stops flashing. There's also hawk signals, so that would be on South 11th. We have a set of those where it's actually dark most of the time, and then it actually turns red to stop those vehicles to let the kids cross or any pedestrian. I don't know that 3 lanes versus 2 lane. The 2 of them that we have on Albernet Road are, those we get complaints about a lot because the cars don't even follow the rapid flashing beacon. So we could put it up. It could give that sense of security. Like I push the button, I assume the cars are going to stop. I don't take the time to make sure they're actually going to stop. Even the one that we have embedded in the sign. So it's not the rectangular flashing beacon. It's just the sign that flashes at Lindale for the Grant Wood Trail. That one we've got complaints on that vehicles don't stop. So it does give a false sense of security as well. So that's something we have to be cognizant of because they may think they push that button and it's safe to walk and then somebody doesn't stop either.
I mean, if there's any studies out there about the effectiveness of flashing beacons, I'd love to see it if there's any out there because
well, there's tons.
Yeah, as we go forward, again, I've got some concern about putting it there on a 3-lane road and that is going to be as much of a concern as not. So I don't want to create an issue, but I don't want to totally say no to a flashing beacon. I guess I feel I need to get, a little more better understanding of it and maybe get a little more educated about beacons and their effectiveness.
Yeah. Right. So I would appreciate, maybe it was already commented on, I'd appreciate a listing of where we already have the beacons in place. I want to go out and just, personally inspect those. I think others of my colleagues would do that as well to see what the lay of the land looks like. The only remaining comment I have, again, I'm going to vote for this particular item, but I think there's more that we can do. And the residual comment that I have for right now is this. We all observe a lot of distracted driving. Somebody's updating their twit face. They're, doing whatever, putting on makeup, smoking a cigarette, eating a cheeseburger. They're doing everything but driving. And from my standpoint, I think a visual stimuli that comes on is going to catch that person that has distracted driving, that is participating in the fine art of distracted driving. So I think I've expressed my opinion. I'm biasing myself for safety conservatism on this, but independent of what the studies, and Your Honor, I will research whatever studies I can find.
I know you will.
Okay. All right.
Just Google them there.
All right. So there you are.
I'm counting on that. We haven't heard from Randy yet.
Sure, thank you. I guess I want to bring some awareness too, and I just want to say a couple things, and that is I know our school districts are all being challenged with budgets, and transportation's probably ranked right up there. I'm dealing with a neighborhood out in the Hunter's Way and Hunter's Green up in that particular area where children are being forced to walk down roads, crossroads where there's no sidewalks. With the state changing how far they can, bus. A simple solution to this would be obviously is to provide that pickup on the east side of 35th Street and physically get these children across that road via forms of transportation, right? That's what it's kind of coming down to. This is kind of I see multiple things, but then the priority one for me is obviously these children trying to get across for school. School is the essential part. It's what they have to do. It's not an ancillary option for them. And I think we need to probably do a little bit more work at the school level to help support them at the legislative or at the state level to try to bend these budgets so that we don't run into this, because these arterial roads are not going away. The city's growing larger. And as we're crossing these main thoroughways, these problems are going to continue to exist. Today it's 35th. The next one's going to be 44th. It's going to be 29th as it's going north. Again, we're running into issues out there at Winslow. We're running into the very same issues there where children, there are actually no sidewalks for them to walk to school, and they're within this limit. So, we'd like to think the solution is just create a pickup point for them on the east side of 35th and get them to that next destination. But that requires, the transportation department within the school district and trying to help them in some of the areas that they need for that. Again, I realize the financial burdens, but I just don't agree with putting the children at risk over some of the things that I've been told were some of those excuses just don't settle well with me. So I think it's something we need to really look at the school districts and try to get them the assistance that they need as well too. Again, we have a lot of money going into different things, but creating a pickup to get children to specific areas, I think should be ranked rather high. So I think the solution is going back and taking a look at these bus routes a little bit as well too. But I think that's got to be a collaboration and some efforts on a lot of different areas. But I just wanted to make that point because we're battling with a couple of other neighborhoods, and it's a dilemma. Again, developers want to go out and develop these areas, and there's no sidewalks in between these particular areas there. So those are just some concerns that we have, and we got to get them that safe transportation across these roads. So,
Hey, Sarah, and then
thanks.
I won't belabor this, but I will say, I was walking the trail on Sunday, the new one here through Uptown, all the way out, and the rapid flashing beacons, where we had to cross the roads, actually worked pretty well. Obviously, cautiously, you push it and then you stand there and you wait and think, is that car going to stop? Is that going to stop? I'm an adult. It's different when you're dealing with children, but people did stop for them. In comparison, I live close to Boysen Road, and I cross that road quite often to get to the trailhead, and there is no flashing. It's just a sign, and there isn't a soul that stops for us when I'm standing there with my friend waiting to cross this road. There is not a car that stops for us. Everybody just keeps going, and then we dart across when there aren't any cars. So as much as we would like to think that people would see those, I don't know that people know that they should stop if there isn't something flashing at them. So if it's, I don't want to say, oh, well, I'd like to have a little vote for this, get this piece off, with the agenda approved and moving. But I would like a little more, I don't know Kim, if this is something, or Mike with you, that we actually see a timeline of when we're revisiting this, that we don't just say, oh, we're going to take another look at it. I'd like a little more concrete, like timeline that we can communicate or bring people together into what this looks like, and just instead of just saying we'll look at this a little more, because that sounds like we're just putting it off and not, having that report back.
I agree. Go ahead.
First off, with the rapid flashing beacons, I live right by the one you're talking about, 31st and the trail, and I see people run through those lights all the time. So it does happen. I mean, you said you get complaints about it. I see it. I would recommend to everyone with the children that are walking, crossing to get to schools or get to the bus to not only reach out to us, and maybe you've already done this, but reach out to your school board representatives and talk to them about what can be done if it means picking up at a different location, if it means trying to get the crossing guard at different times or earlier times or whatnot. And then we definitely, as a city, I think we should look at this intersection. What type of improvements can be done there? Is it narrowing of the road in that particular area? Putting in whatever, I don't know that what exactly needs to be done, or if it is a roundabout. So I think we definitely, like Sarah said too, let's get an action item going so we can look for this. And then I'm gonna put the deputy chief on the spot here, but from what Sarah said, it is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is a state law in the state of Iowa, or a law in the state of Iowa, that if someone's at a crosswalk, a designated crosswalk, a car has to stop for a pedestrian to cross the street, correct? Thank you. So let's let everyone know that if someone's standing at a crosswalk, you need to stop at state law. Not if it's a flashing beacon, just any crosswalk. That's a designated crosswalk.
Well, that's something that we could talk with the communications manager for the city about, and getting that communication out to the public to just create more awareness. So that's one thing. But I think what we're hearing is that the council wants to keep looking at this to see how we can improve the situation. While, there's no objection to this motion, we see it as a beginning and the continued looking at additional steps. And one of them being, getting more information on the beacon and seeing if that wouldn't be an option that would work. So is that pretty accurate? Okay. Are we ready to vote? Any further comments? Anything else, Mike, you wanted to add? Okay. All right. Appreciate all your work on this, and we will vote. All those in favor of the motion to direct staff to move the 30 miles per hour sign on 35th Street from southbound traffic from Parkcrest Court to McGowan, and deploy the automatic traffic enforcement vehicle on 35th Street and continue the recommended maintenance of the intersection, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The motion is approved. This time we have a public comment section regarding requests for no parking and speed bumps on 3rd Avenue east of 22nd Street. You have a presentation, Mike?
I do. So similar situation, we had a petition. This one was a little smaller. It was the properties that were directly impacted. For those not aware, 3rd Avenue, we just reconstructed and opened back up. The school also underwent a major improvement as well. As part of those improvements, there is a bus drop off that we added to 3rd Avenue on the north side. So what we're proposing, before there was parking by the resolutions that we're recommending we rescind, there was no parking from certain entrances, and it was very confusing when you were out there where you were supposed to park or where you could park. And so to make it easier, and with this curve with our apparatuses with the fire department, we are now responding to all calls with those apparatuses, and with that tight corner, our recommendation is from this bus pull off to 22nd to make it no parking on the south side. The north side already has no parking, and so we're just putting that in the resolution to clean some stuff up. The bus pull off itself will be regulated similar to how it is right out here on 5th Avenue, where if there's no school and they don't need to be dropping kids off, the teachers, or if there's an after school event, then they could park in that area, and the school would just basically regulate that when those vehicles could not park there. So there would be parking in the bus lane when they allowed it to happen. So that's our recommendation on this, and obviously not installing speed bumps, and there's various reasons in the TAC memo on that. On this one, we also have some people that have emailed, and I think there's some in the audience that want to talk about this one as well.
Okay, thank you, Mike, and we'll come back to you with questions when we get to the motion. At this time, the public comment section is open for comments from members of the public. If anyone's here to address council on this matter, please come forward. Please state your name and address, and if you haven't filled out the card, please do so maybe afterwards, but
Done.
oh, done already. Okay,
All
very
right.
good. Thank you.
My name's Tom Bullis. I live at 2233 3rd Avenue. So I am at the southeast corner of that intersection. And we have a new street. Thank you, Mike. It's beautiful. It's been widened a couple feet. That should help the traffic get through and so on. I've already made some comments in an email. Separate things are I appreciate hearing about the bus lane. I wasn't aware that they were gonna allow parking there when school wasn't in session. But what I want to address is from 22nd Street to the curve, where there has been parking in the past. It's been allowed. And there is very little parking for staff, parents. There is literally no parking in that school parking lot for parents for any after-school event. So it seems to me we're going a little bit overboard by making it absolutely no parking along the south side of 22nd. I mean, it's gonna make a difference of a few spots, but I think we have already situation near Wilkins on 27th Street, Wilkins Elementary, where there's no parking allowed between drop-off hours or half hour and pickup time. So I guess my question is, why do we need to make that no parking every day, 365 days a year, when we have a problem for 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon, 180 days of the year? So why does it need to be parking all the time? I mean, you're taking away parking on the weekends and all those hours where parents are not dropping their children off or picking them up. So I would appreciate that it be only no parking during those times when it is a traffic problem, and it's a real problem. Councilman Jensen has been there. The the principal at FMI told me today that they have actually there's 8 events during the year where parents will come en masse. And of course, it's always a zoo, but to take away completely all the parking, I just don't see the reason for that. I don't see why we can't do what they do at Wilkins and limit the no parking is only during drop off and pickup times. But if the council decides that should be no parking, then I mean, at all times, then I will expect the police to enforce it. We haven't had much enforcement of that in the past. But if you change the rules, then the enforcement needs to change to go with it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bowles. Anyone else? Please come forward. Okay, we'll ask the staff if we have comments outside the meeting.
We received 3 comments in advance of the meeting. Tammy Dieter, in support of no parking against the installation of speed bumps. Tom Bolus in support of no parking, but only at certain times. And Lynette Hauser in support of no parking on 3rd Avenue.
Okay, seeing that no one else is coming forward, we'll close this part of the meeting and move on to the motion.
Yes, Your Honor, I move to receive and file Traffic Advisory Committee report regarding a request for no parking and speed bumps on 3rd Avenue east of 22nd.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to receive and file the Traffic Advisory Committee report regarding the request for no parking and speed bumps on 3rd Avenue east of 22nd Street. Discussion on the motion to receive and file. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, I agree with Mr. Bolus's comment that because what we did, make sure I'm understanding that correctly, on 27th Street in front of Wilkins, that's no parking on 27th, only at certain times of the day. Is that correct?
For half the street, yeah.
Yes. So to me, this seems very similar. I mean, the red line you have there, if you go there again at pickup time, drop off time is not a problem, but pickup at 3:30 when school gets out, the cars are backed up all the way along that red line. So, I mean, that would be a problem, having cars parked there and become a nuisance, because then cars are gonna get too deep, backed up, waiting to get into the parking lot. But, so I still wonder if, did you give that consideration to do similar to, Wilkins, and why would that not work?
We did. We actually worked with the fire department, and because of the jog in the road,
Yeah.
they felt to get their apparatus through, and again, snow removal operations, stuff like that. Unfortunately, that goes 24/7, not
Right.
just when school's in session.
So just because of the jog is the main
You think we'd have,
concern.
you think there'd be an issue with the fire truck getting through?
Yep.
That's
Chief, go
correct.
ahead.
Yes, so emergency service access and being able to get our fire apparatus to any location within the community is a strategy that when we collaborate on looking at these items is to make those decisions jointly. And so, yes, that impacted this decision. We want to make sure that we can get emergency services having good access at all times.
So that option was considered, and so. does that
Okay,
answer
just want
your
to
question,
I just want, yeah, my question, was that considered? The answer is you have, and fire chief concurs with that recommendation as well. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other good discussion on the motion to receive and file? And then we can get to the actual motion after that. So receive and file. All those in favor of approving the motion to receive and file the Traffic Advisory Committee report regarding the request for no parking and speed bumps on Third Avenue east of 22nd Street, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Okay, that motion is approved. Mr. Brandt?
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 31630, approving the establishment of a no parking zone on the south side of Third Avenue from 22nd Street to the bus pull-off area, establishment of a no parking zone on the north side of Third Avenue from 22nd Street to 27th Street, and rescinding resolution numbers 14038 and 24766.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 31630, approving the establishment of a no parking zone on the south side of Third Avenue from 22nd Street to the bus pull-off area, and establishment of a no parking zone on the north side of Third Avenue from 22nd Street to 27th Street, and also rescinding resolution number 14038 and resolution number 24766. Okay, discussion. Yes, go ahead, Grant.
So first, a question about the reconstruction of that street. Did it materially get wider from its original footprint?
I believe a little bit. It might have been slightly smaller. We brought it up to SUDA standards, so it is 26 foot wide. But we did not purchase any right of way as part of that project, so we had to still keep it within that. We would have straightened it out and put, if it was a brand new and there's no houses there, we would have fixed that so that we didn't have the jog in it.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess just, and I appreciate Chief's comment relative to being able to get an apparatus in there and, we have that problem all over, the city at this point, and we're wrestling with that, incrementally as we look around town. I guess, certainly for so long as the deployment of, your crews and how we need to be responding, whether it be to a structure fire or a medical, I'm sensitized to, being in favor of this particular proposal. At such point, we would change our response posture and not have to use our larger apparatus. Then I think maybe we might have a compelling reason perhaps to change our minds, but that would be a separate analysis at a later point in time. So,
Mayor, if I could comment on that.
Please.
Yes, Grant. So with the minimum staffing standards that we've been working towards to maintain in our pursuit of quality practice standards for emergency response for all hazards, not just EMS, not just fire, technical rescue and hazardous materials. That's what we're striving for. Previously, the response model did split crews to where we would leave one person to respond on a fire truck. And that is simply not a quality practice that we are continuing. And so we have changed that. And so we respond to all hazards on a fire apparatus to where we can, again, arrive with the effective response force needed to mitigate that. And so working with Mike and his team, along with others as a part of the TAC review, in a very consistent manner, as you mentioned, there are several other places across the city where we have road width challenges and parking is something that we're navigating through. And so in a standardized and methodical manner, while communicating with our community, we're working towards updating these no parking areas to ensure that we can provide high quality emergency services to our residents to meet that expectation when they need us.
That's a great backstory to where you sensed I was heading, so thank you. You filled in a lot of gaps.
Okay, any other discussion on this motion? Okay. All those in favor of approving resolution number 31630, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to direct staff to deploy the automatic traffic enforcement ATE vehicle to the area of 22nd Street and 3rd Avenue as determined by the police department.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to direct staff to deploy the automatic traffic enforcement vehicle to the area of 22nd Street and 3rd Avenue as determined by the police department. Discussion? Steve?
Why is this on the agenda as a city council item? I thought the police department decides on their own where to put the, this vehicle?
So this was part of the TAC recommendation. If you recall, one of the requests was speed bumps for speed.
Right.
So we're addressing that by having that in there, just like it was in the previous one. So we're just taking action on the TAC report that you received and filed.
So
They
basically
don't all come
requiring
through
that
city
it happens.
council. We're just taking this action because it's part of TAC.
All right, very good. Thank you.
So in that regard, there's probably a reasonably long list of places to deploy the mobile unit. And so does this change the prioritization and the frequency at which it would be deployed to this location?
No, this is the same as a resident calling in and saying, I want to be put on the list.
Okay, so it doesn't change the deployment frequency or prioritization.
So then it brings it to the PD's attention.
Well, I guess the fact that it's on the agenda, I'm really wondering, are we asking that frequency and priority is being adjusted? That's what I'm trying to just understand, because it's conceivable we'll have a similar request because of a TAC report in the future. And so I'm just trying to understand from a process perspective, how we respond to those TAC related items. Does that then put a natural priority and frequency increase to that location? That's all I'm trying to understand. And it's not necessarily material to our decision tonight, but I think we should, from a process standpoint, figure out what that means if TAC says do it. That's all I'm really saying.
It's a directive from the council requiring that it be done versus allowing it to be done in the normal process of the police department's discretion. It's saying we're requiring that it be done, so. Okay. Any further comments, discussion? All those in favor of approving the motion to direct staff to deploy the automatic traffic enforcement vehicle on the, in the area of 22nd Street and 3rd Avenue, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Motion is approved. Mr. Sternad?
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 23-23, amending chapter 274, article 3 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding stormwater utility. This will be the final consideration.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the final consideration of ordinance number 23-23, amending chapter 274, article 3 of the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding stormwater utility. Discussion. All those in favor of approving ordinance number 23-23, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 31631, approving the stormwater utility standard operating procedure and policy.
Second.
Been moved by Councilmember Miskimmin and seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem to approve resolution number 31631, approving the stormwater utility standard operating procedure and policy. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor of approving resolution number 31631, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 31632, approving the residential stormwater best management practices, rebate, program procedures, and policy.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 31632, approving the residential stormwater best management practices, rebate program, procedures, and policy. Discussion? You have something to add, Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, Mr. Brandt made a comment about the taller grass that we were gonna allow. That's actually gonna be a layer that we put in the GIS to keep track of that. So that's gonna be completely separate so that we know that when we get a weed complaint, we can say, no, those are actually wildflowers or whatever that case may be. So it'll be something that's documented and the GIS is available with all departments. So it will be something that's managed.
Thank you.
Okay, other discussion? All those in favor of approving resolution number 31632, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion is approved. For the next item, I will turn over the meeting to the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to direct staff to develop a through the fence agreement for Lot 8 Aircom Park First Edition.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to develop a through the fence agreement for lot number 8 Aircom Park First Edition. Discussion. Very good. All those in favor of directing staff to develop a through the fence agreement for lot 8 Aircom Park First Edition, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. With an abstention. Yes, thank you, Your Mayor. All right. Continuing on, I now open a public hearing regarding the disposition of public property described as west 20 feet of Lot 8, Block 9, Original Town, Marion, Iowa, and this is the city of Marion. Okay, who has this? Okay, Dave, thank you.
Yes, per the approved memorandum of understanding, in relation to the construction of the roundabout at 7th and 7th, in 2015, the city had agreed to, transfer the west 20 feet of the lot indicated above. So that area highlighted in red on the image, is approximately the west 20 feet, to Charles and Diane Kent's trust as part of that agreement to, eliminate some accesses to his property. It kind of fell through the cracks, unfortunately, and we are now having to hold a public hearing to correct that and get this transferred to him per the agreement.
Okay, very good. Is there anybody here to speak to council on this matter this evening? Dave, have we received any public comment on this?
None.
Rachel?
I have not received any.
Okay, let the record know, we haven't received any external commentary on this and no one is speaking to this tonight. Okay, we will close the public hearing and move to the resolution.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve resolution number 31633, approving the disposition of public property described as the west 20 feet of Lot 8, Block 9, Original Town, Marion, Iowa, City of Marion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 31633, approving the disposition of public property described as the west 20 feet of Lot 8, Block 9, Original Town, Marion, Iowa. Discussion. Yeah, Gage?
Yeah, I just want to note for the record that I'll be abstaining from this one as the adjacent owner is on the board of my employer.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. All those in favor of resolution number 31633, approving the disposition of public property described as the west 20 feet of Lot 8, Block 9, Original Town of Marion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good. And there's one abstention. Motion carries. Two abstentions, sorry.
Okay, our next item is a public hearing regarding moratorium related to commercial uses along portions of Tower Terrace Road, Highway 13, and the Central Corridor zoning districts. We'll open the public hearing, have a report from Dave.
Yes, I'll be brief. This is a quick little overview from the previous work session. The areas of focus are shown on the screen, the three colored areas of the screen along Tower Terrace Road, Highway 13, and the Central Corridor. As council will recall, has directed city staff to pursue a moratorium on the uses identified initially on the screen. And as we work through the review, we've identified a few other uses, and I'll go into those briefly. Subject to the moratorium, again, the three areas along Tower Terrace Road, Highway 13, and the Central Corridor across the top of the screen, and the uses identified by the council going down the columns there. Every use affected by the moratorium is highlighted in red. The use is not affected by the moratorium because they're not allowed anyways, are highlighted in gray. Since the work session, we have added delayed deposits, tattoo parlor and body piercing studio, retail sales large, and retail sales medium to the Tower Terrace Road corridor. In the work session, I used grocery stores as an example of scaling. Grocery stores are a separate use than retail large or medium, but I talked about them at length. So I put them into the moratorium. Not sure if that's the city council's intent. We can remove grocery and grocery hood neighborhood from this moratorium along Tower Terrace if that's the direction. But again, it was discussed a little bit at length at the work session. The areas in white on the screen are permitted if they or not permitted, just depending on the district that we're in. Again, not subject to the moratorium because they're not highlighted in red. Quick little review of the properties affected. All commercial and manufacturing zoning within 1,200 feet of the center line of each road of Highway 13. This will affect 25, 16, and 21 properties in the various different zoning districts. Tower Terrace Road affects everything from Albernet Road to 10th Street, and then east of Linmar along Winslow Road to Wallace Street. 20 properties affected within the BC zoning and 3 in the BL, and this is approximately 150 feet from the center line. And finally, the properties affected within the Central Corridor, approximately 250, 300 properties affected along this corridor. This is all the commercial zoning that we find, again, from 2nd Street all the way to 31st Street.
Okay, thank you. We'll, if you can just, stay tuned for questions during the actual vote. All right, at this time, we have the public hearing open for comments from members of the public on this measure. Anyone here to address council can come forward. Please state your name and address, and also I see you have the card. If you can hand it to the city clerk, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mike Bates, owner of Marion Guns and Gold and Ice Bakery at 361 7th Avenue. I've worked here in Marion for 17 years at the same location, and I have owned the business now for 8 years. Marion Guns and Gold has been in business since 1995 at the same location. We're the only pawn shop type business that has ever existed in Marion. My wife and I also opened Ice Bakery for her 6 years ago. I'm speaking today in regards to pawn shops being listed again for this moratorium, the same as 4 years ago when the 7th Avenue project ordinance went into effect. I was granted an amendment to the current ordinance 19-17 in 2019. I was told that this wouldn't be a problem, but here we are again. I'm listed on that. I'd like to once again request that pawn shops be removed from the list on the moratorium, as I have concerns for the well-being of my businesses down the road if we're to have anything for issues such as fire, tornado, or simply a car running through my building. It almost happened a month ago. They took out a telephone pole and my neighbor's sign, right down in front of Alter Ego. And as the states, I would not be able to pull a permit from the building department because I wouldn't have approval unless I was approved by the city council. I've also been told that shouldn't be a problem, but once again, this isn't a guarantee on the issue. I thought we had already made the appropriate measures in the 7th Avenue corridor or Central Corridor ordinance back in 19. And I agree and support those measures as well. The only part of my business that separates me from other retail businesses here in town is the fact that I offer the option for individuals to purchase their items back from me. I'm having a hard time understanding why that puts me on any list, any different from a bank, grill store, insurance company, or any other type of retail business that is permitted at my location and will continue to be permitted. I also understand the misconception a lot of people have or seem to have towards my type of business. However, I do my best to stay away from those stereotypes. I work with the Marion PD, local ATF, FBI agencies, and I've never had any issues with them. In fact, only a few months ago, the city of Marion put a stop to me having a pawnbroker's license at all anymore. This is the first time in 28 years that I have not needed a license through the city of Marion or to be bonded with them. I thought this was strange, but I was reassured on a phone conversation with the city attorney that this was deemed as an unnecessary item for me to have anymore. I reached out to a few officers at the Marion PD that I have dealt with, picking up my paperwork and stuff every week for stuff that I buy. That's a part of what that pawnbroker's license was agreed on. And they thought it was strange, but agreed we really don't have any issues. And they thought it was more of a waste of time and taxpayer money to process my weekly paperwork. We also strive to be a quality business in this area of Marion who offers all types of individuals the opportunity for a helping hand when the unexpected bill comes due, their car breaks down, or just down on their luck. This economy has taken a toll on a lot of people who depend on our services that I offer at my store. We look forward to staying in the city of Marion for years to come, and we would like to pass all of our stuff, our businesses onto our kids and would like the assurance from the city that these issues will be dealt with properly. I encourage and invite anyone of you to stop at my store and see what you have to offer. I know a few of you have, and I've done business with a few of you as well. Thank you for your time and consideration on this matter. And I would like to welcome any questions or concerns the council may have regarding my business as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please come forward, state your name and address.
My name's Mike Marek. I own
Would you please use the microphone because the
All right.
meeting is recorded, so thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
my name's Mike Marek. I own Marek Properties right next to Walmart. It's a storage business. I had a car dealership for 25 years in in Hiawatha. Hiawatha did this too and changed their zoning. Same thing. I sold my car dealership. I came to Marion. I bought the highest zoned piece of property I could get in Marion. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. So I built storage garages out there, and I have a site plan with the city where I built the storage garages. And it also says in there, future buildings on the site plan when I built the first two buildings. I put the detention basins in for the other building, so I don't need to put any more detention basins in. Now it comes that you guys have decided to take this little piece of property right next to Walmart that the measurements from Lynn County today said I am 1,228 feet from, but I went from the medium in the center of Highway 13. Obviously, you guys are going on Highway 13 South in the center lane and Highway 13 North in the center lane. You're not measuring from the medium. With my calculations, how wide a medium is and the width of the lane, I'm still within 4 foot. So you're trying to take my whole piece of property and put an amendment on it that I can't build another storage garage, that I can't do what I originally bought this property for over, well, I'm figuring I'm within 4 feet, but you're figuring I'm not. Maybe you know, Dave, how close it is?
I'll address it in a bit.
Okay. So you're trying to take my whole piece of property, which is 127 by, I don't know, 187 or something, and saying I can't build another building there over this little difference. So my question is why? I don't get it. I'm zoned as high as possible. I don't know why you're putting all these stipulations on my property. And I've already put a detention basins in when I built the other ones for the building. And now you're saying, and it's 4 storage garages. I'm not changing anything else. It's just to build another building. I already bought the building. Okay, I haven't taken the final plans and everything in there, but why? Is my question to you guys. Why? You know, if you need the extra, if it's only 4 foot over, if you need 4 foot over, I promise I won't build on that 4 foot. Okay, instead of taking my whole lot. That's it.
Okay. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Please come forward.
William Regan, 365 7th Avenue.
Sir, please speak into the microphone.
Oh. I usually talk so loud, I don't like microphones.
And, okay, please say your name and
William
your
Regan,
address.
365 7th Avenue, and I received one of these, and
Okay,
so I'm concerned. I have a go-kart shop there. And I don't see myself on the list, but I still received one of these, so I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
What this is all about.
okay.
No one knows.
Do you have any comments on,
I'm not sure what I should comment on. I mean, we just ship parts.
okay. So this is not, this is just a moratorium to keep things as they are until the staff gets to
I have no plans to make
look at the comprehensive plan and update it so that we can determine how our city will grow, how development happens, what types of businesses are appropriate in which areas. This is not making a decision on anything. It's just to maintain the status quo, to give the staff that time to be able to do that. And in that process, then there could be zoning changes and those types of changes. But if your business is not impacted by, it's not on the list, then it's not impacted by the moratorium.
I need to come then.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other comments to council? Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor, if we could, I should have added this at the end, but we'd like to keep the public hearing open through the readings process.
Okay.
Just to allow folks additional opportunities as they learn more about it over the next month or next couple weeks.
Very good. So we won't close the public hearing. We will ask if we've received comments outside the meeting.
I have not received any additional comments.
All right.
Sorry,
So,
I have
we're-
received a few, sorry.
You have? Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
sorry, I was letting Rachel go first. Michelle Burgess, owner of property at 1505 7th Avenue, just expressed some concerns about the ability to expand. Bob Berger, Lynn County Business Park on REC Drive. Just again, also expressed concerns about the ability to expand. Brian with Green Acres Storage Facility, 5805 Beal Court, also concerns about the ability to expand or start construction of the approved plans. Gene with Abrasive Solutions, 1805 Red Fox Way, also expressed concerns about the ability. Mr. Bates has already spoke tonight. Kelsey Boninger of Quick Trip Corporation just expressed concerns about their ability to expand in the Marion market with planned projects. Dan Engel, Tower Terrace Road, is opposed to the proposed moratorium. Adam Gibbs, representing Dollar Tree, expressed concerns about the ability to expand and perform their operations already approved. And Mr. Merrick already spoke tonight as well.
Okay. So we will keep the public hearing open and we'll go on to the motion, and then will you be able to explain the concerns of Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's make the motion and then we'll have the discussion.
Where we at?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Randy.
Mr. Sternad.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 2326, approving a moratorium related to select commercial uses along portions of Tower Terrace Road, Highway 13 and Central Corridor zoning districts. This will be the initial consideration.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 23-26, approving moratorium related to select commercial uses along portions of Tower Terrace Road, Highway 13 and Central Corridor zoning districts. Now we'll need discussion, and if you could address Mr. Mark's issues, which I wasn't.
Sure.
They don't seem to be relevant to this or to this measure here tonight, but maybe they are.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Highway 13 running north-south through the image here. It's kind of hard to see, I'm sorry, but Mr. American, about 5 properties right on that red dot. Walmart is centered there on the large red portion. When we looked at how far do we go from the what is the Highway 13 corridor, we took a random 1,200 feet from the center line of the southbound lane and 1,200 feet from the northbound lane of Highway 13, measured out 1,200 feet, and it did pick up his property and approximately 5 others to the south that were within that 1,200 feet. And he is correct, it is approximately 10 feet. His property is probably about 10 feet into that 1,200, more or less. I did a quick little math on before the meeting. It's pretty close. So he did get picked up along with 4 properties or 5 properties to the south beyond him. So in regards to his use, storage garages are listed as a use that would be subject to the moratorium. So he has 2 existing along with an exterior storage lot. Of course, that's allowed to continue, allowed to be sold. The next individual can use that as well. But as subject to the moratorium, as we keep reviewing some additional case law, we don't believe he'd be able to do that next building. He had it shown on his initial plans from several years ago, but it just identified a future building. It wasn't located specifically. I mean, there's only so many places it can go, but he didn't have it identified specifically in the plans. So we're reviewing case law on that. I don't have a firm answer tonight on that question, if he has received the vested interest that we've talked about on the other properties. So he is subject to this moratorium initially, the way we're reading it.
Okay, so you're following up on it?
Correct.
And there are still 2 readings where it could be dropped out.
That is correct. We had to establish the vested portion of it.
Yes, Your Honor, this would actually be one where we're looking to see if the vested use would apply or if the moratorium would create a temporary conditional non-conforming for this property. So that's the difference that I'm looking into now. It's a unique situation that we hadn't anticipated, but there is some case law that I will provide an update to as soon as I have a more clear picture of that.
What about, projects that are already approved? You said you had a couple comments.
We have the Dollar Tree on Tower Terrace Road. We have the Green Acres Storage Facility on 13 and 151,
Right.
the Seth Green project. And then we have one storage garage I think it's complete or nearing completion behind the Dairy Queen. Also, just Casey's Dairy Queen just north of there. It's substantially completed, I believe, so it shouldn't be a factor, but wanted to make
They're
sure.
not included.
They are included in the overlay, but we believe they're vested.
Right.
Or we are saying they are vested.
Okay. Go ahead.
So Dave, I want to jump back to the first comment. I think it was Mr. Bates addressed us.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Bates addressed
Yes,
us, first commentary during the public hearing. So I want to just get clarified, at least in my mind, the impact of our moratorium on an existing building. In the unfortunate event, there could be weather-induced damage to that property, and Mr. Bates would want to restore his business's condition. Would this moratorium, because he is pre-existing, prevent that?
Several factors I believe would prevent it. I mean, the moratorium would not allow, depending on the amount of damage and the value of the damage, if it's in excess of if it's in excess of 50% of the value of the property, he would not be allowed to rebuild due to being, that's the structure portion. Now, if the building was destroyed in excess of 50%, that obviously closes the business. And then the business could not reopen due to the moratorium.
Okay, well, so, okay, that's
So
an
there's a
interesting.
structure and there's two different, there's a structure issue, which is
Okay.
really not relevant, and then there's a use issue.
Okay, and so I apologize for not delving into this variant during our work session, but I need to now. The purpose of the moratorium, as I understand it, is to not bring into action anything new in the designated areas encompassed by the moratorium. However, if there is projects that are documented and in motion, and I'm being kind of general there, then they proceed because they were approved prior to our moratorium.
Correct. They've received formal planning and zoning
Yeah.
commission approval, yes.
You're saying it better than I
Okay.
am, but you're reading my mind, and that's always risky. So I guess as I think about Mr. Bates' property, he's approved to do business there. And let's say we weren't considering the moratorium. If he suffered, currently, independent of the moratorium, his business is permitted to be where it is, correct?
100% permitted.
Okay. So it just seems to me the existence of the moratorium is somewhat ill-applied to his condition because he's there, he's approved. If he suffers damage, he should be able to restore his business because the focus and the emphasis of the moratorium is merely not to initiate anything new.
Yes, but the code has provisions that it has to stay open. If it's vacant, even if with a permit, if it becomes vacant for 6 months, it has to be
Whose code?
zoning ordinance. The 340.
Well, so I think this is one of these edge cases where there's a fundamental, our code doesn't address this edge case under this condition. And I guess what I'm advocating less eloquently than my colleague, Mr. Jensen, perhaps, is that we grant some relief for that kind of condition. Business in good standing, full compliance with our ordinances, now encompassed within the geography of the moratorium, but it's not something new that is trying to come to life. It's established and continuing.
Yeah, this is it's a little bit of a unique situation in this way. Got a little bit of conflicting codes, of course. So I think a better example is you won't be able to, you definitely won't be able to expand a use. So if, you know, just like we just talked about with Mr. Merrick's property, he can't expand. He's got a use established. He wants to expand the use percent. So if Mr. Bates wants to expand, you know, buy the shop, I think he indicated if a building became available, he might like to buy it. He necessarily wouldn't be able to expand the pawn shop into that operation or in that new space, expand the building for the pawn shop or have an annex to the pawn shop. That would not be permitted during the moratorium either. So we have a little bit of conflicting code on established use and having to rebuild, but there's a whole structure there's a whole structure issue there as well beyond use.
Your
And we
Honor.
can delve into it further after this meeting, after keeping the public hearing, we can definitely give a firmer answer to that question. Because it deserves it. It sounds like it
Yeah,
deserves it.
this just seems to be one of those potential edge cases that by virtue of just the concept of the moratorium is a little problematic, and I would hope we could find our way to unthread that.
Well, that's what we'll spend the next 2 weeks doing.
And I think the important thing to note, just so there's no confusion, this measure here is that we're considering is not a final determination as to what should go where or what should be allowed where. This is just saying we want time to look at it and to consider what should go where. And then those decisions come later, and as there's time to consider whether something is an appropriate use in a particular area or not. But this is, as you've stated, Grant, to prevent new projects from coming in and making permanent changes in the status quo that we can't undo, so that we can be thoughtful about how the city grows and develops, so that everyone does well and we're all it all works well together. So okay, go ahead, Steve.
Well, I agree with Grant's comment, especially from the perspective that I do not want to see the moratorium have a negative impact on an existing business. I mean, I will defend that existing business to continue unless there's some other major aspect of that we should be concerned about. So, but for example, in the case of Mr. Bates, if that car had gone into the front of his building during the moratorium and had damage to that building, and it's not over 50%, and he keeps it open within 6 months, he's got the ability to reopen that, fix it, reopen it, even under the moratorium. Is that correct, Dave?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Yes.
But also clarify one more thing for me. We're talking about, I've heard comments that there will be no projects approved during the moratorium in these areas. I thought we talked about on Tuesday that the city council did have the ability, if they wanted, to approve a project
Correct.
during the moratorium. Although there's a moratorium, that we still have that ability to approve a project.
Correct. You have the approval to amend the ordinance, then
To
to allow
amend it
that project to work through
on a specific
process,
project.
wherever that process path it takes. yes.
Correct. I just want to make sure that this is not total carte blanche. Nothing will get approved because there's options and ways in which a project can get approved.
Yes, you can always amend the ordinance.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I have
please.
just a couple of legal clarification points. The first is that both of the comments relating to Mr. Merrick and Mr. Bates, those would both be affected based on the research I'm doing as to whether or not this creates a non-conforming use in both of their businesses. If my research turns up that they are not now non-conforming, because this is a temporary zoning ordinance and it doesn't change the actual zoning underneath. So if this moratorium expires and the zoning doesn't change, they're not non-conforming uses. Their zoning continues as it was and they'll still be allowable uses. But if my research comes back that we cannot create a non-conforming use with the moratorium on an already existing business, then they would be able to both expand and repair in the case of damage. The other option we have is we could write into our moratorium, if you are so inclined, that the moratorium does not create legal non-conforming uses, which would be a discussion for council. Also, just as a point of clarification, with regard to business licensing, when we did our recodification, we took out all of our business licenses except transient merchants and solicitation. Everything else was removed from our code. It was not in anticipation of this. We didn't know that this was going to be an issue when we did that. Last October, I believe, was our final reading of that.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, any other discussion? Paige?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's been said so far. And some of the things that I'm gonna say I've said in previous meetings. Overall, I'm for this moratorium, especially. I think our main focus really is Tower Terrace Road. Is there's so much new potential development over there, and the whole point of this moratorium, which is would be set for a year, is to take a pause, allow the staff to wrap their arms around the future development here. It's proactive, it's intentional. And I think that's really important, so that we get a better handle on what we see in those areas. However, I agree with Grant and Steve and that, you know, with the cases that the two gentlemen brought forward tonight, you know, they're existing businesses. I also remember on Tuesday talking about individual cases being able to come forward, individual projects being approved. So yeah, personally, I don't want to see any current businesses being impacted in this way by this moratorium, because the goal is to put a pause on new developments coming in and being more controlled. So just wanted to throw that out there too.
So, Kara, just a question for you on this. So we've expressed some concerns and, you know, cited an edge case here or two. If we approve this reading and materially there's something that comes out of your review of our commentary, can that be incorporated into a later reading?
It depends on how, so when you say material, it would depend on whether there's a material change to the actual ordinance. So if I come back and find that we are allowed to create non-conforming uses, but council wants to add in a provision that this is not intended to create legal non-conforming uses, then that would require me to add that into the code, and that could potentially be a material enough change to reset the readings back to one. I don't know that it would be, but that's a question I hadn't considered, so I want to think about that from all angles rather than give you an off-the-cuff answer on that one. But if my research comes back and says you can't create a legal non-conforming use with this, we would have to amend the underlying zoning, then there's really no change, because legally we wouldn't be able to require any use to follow those procedures. They would still be a legal use until that underlying zoning ordinance was changed. And at that point in time, they would be able to come in and discuss again. We'd have to have 3 readings and a public notice.
So just to follow on, so do you believe it's possible kind of to examine these issues and how they need to shake out as we lead up to our next cycle of council meetings?
We certainly can. And if it's a change where we determine it would require us to reset to 1, but we still have the public hearing open, then we either continue to do those 3 readings, or we can always waive a reading or 2 readings, since we've had tons of public hearing time on this one. The other option that we have is essentially at any point in time, if council directs us to, we can, like for this example this evening, if you wanted to, we could put a pause on this. What we are allowed to do based on the case law and treatises I've read is that for things that are covered by this moratorium, if somebody comes in tomorrow and applies for a building permit, we are allowed to deny those building permits while this is pending.
Right. I understood that. Okay, thank you.
Randy?
I just wanted to echo as well, some of the same statements that are being made here as well too. I just want to, this whole intent is to obviously cast an overview of the entire city as we go through this process here. Our intentions are certainly not to hinder any existing businesses, and it troubles me to think that there might be just a little bit of heartburn out here over these things, but I as well would would, obviously support looking at these on a case-by-case basis as we go through this process, because that is a big deal, and I share those same concerns. Being in the business and industry is we know what that business interruption, what the true cost is for that. So that's very important, and I support the same thoughts that are going through this process up here too. Being told that council has the authority to bring something through and look at it on a case-by-case basis, it's still a little concerning as to what that means tomorrow and future councils. And even though we know this has only got a 12-month duration to it on the first cycle, but anyway, I just wanted to share that as well too. There's some shared thoughts there.
I'll just chime in because it's going to be right along your same lines, but moratorium, when I heard the word moratorium, it's kind of a startling word and you start to think, what is going on? What's happening here? And, especially when we've been promoting that we're a growing community and all that has to happen with it. So, but this is just like a piece in the big puzzle. And I think we're all very pro-business and growth and understand the importance, especially of our locally owned businesses that have made investments in this community as we continue to grow. It's really we have a great problem and that we are growing, and we have certain areas of the community where we have residential that is starting to conflict with some of our businesses. We have other comments we are starting to receive. There's just some things happening, and that's kind of led to this. We have a comprehensive plan that's going to be a very large project for this community, and where we really look at what do we want to be and how do we want to grow and what does that look like and how do we all harmoniously grow together and do the best for the community. So it's just a pause, but no, I don't think there's anybody up here who is going to be not wanting to work with our local businesses in certain situations. I mean, if we have a natural disaster come through here and these businesses are injured, I mean, obviously that's a big problem in a moratorium, and we're going to be addressing that because we can't let that happen and we're all affected. I think we saw that in the derecho. So it's a startling word, but it's not a directive that anybody is targeted or that this isn't going to work or we don't want to see certain things happen. It's just more of a, hold on, we've got to kind of figure out where we're going with all this. Do our codes work? Are our codes the way they're defined? We're finding they're pretty general. We don't have a lot of say what happens within certain qualifications, what's out there, where are things going? I mean, this will be a pretty comprehensive piece, but in a good way. So it's not going to, it shouldn't impact all of you. So just trying to kind of say, we look forward to this process and working with everybody. And while it sounds startling, it's not meant to be that way for existing businesses.
Further discussion? Will, go ahead.
So some clarification here. So with Mr. Bates's property, so if there was a natural disaster and the building was destroyed and he was going to rebuild, with the moratorium in place, whose decision is it for it to be rebuilt or not? Is that council or is that zoning board of adjustments?
Depends on the issue. If it's a structural issue, that's the zoning board's ability. If it's a use issue, that's the council issue.
Council. So if something natural disaster does happen for an existing business that's on this list, that's in these areas, and it's a natural disaster and it's a building issue, we'd have no say. It's the zoning board of adjustments. So that's being thrown out that we would look on a case by case, but if something like that happened, it's not us, it's the zoning board. Just putting that out there.
So do we have to look at that in the meantime while this is in effect? I don't know the process.
Amendment to moratoriums and amendment, right?
What's that?
If we were looking at things on case by case basis and we amended the moratorium, how would, like we were talking about on Tuesday, amending the moratorium, even if it's something like a natural disaster, was there an amendment that can be made at that time, or is that completely different?
So I'm missing the question. Sorry.
So we talked about on Tuesday, like being able to amend this for any projects.
Correct.
Could that also be considered for repair projects? Or
You're only, this is use focus. It's not about the structure. So it's, you'd be saying, I'm just gonna pick on just a farm field. If a project comes in, we'll use pawn shops. And so we're talking about a pawn shop on Tower Terrace would be affected by this moratorium. So They could come in and say, hey, we're fine with that. We're gonna approve that use on Tower Terrace. And then it still has to go through their approval process. Now, in a rebuild situation, you could say, yeah, we want to allow the use to reestablish. That's fine. But like majority of the buildings in certain parts of the corridor, they don't meet any requirements of setbacks, possibly some building codes. So they have to go back to a zoning board of appeal process if they want to rebuild as they sit today, or they have to meet the new standards, and some lots may not be big enough to meet the new standards, say of parking, or just not a big enough lot to meet the setbacks anymore. So it's kind of two issues. Uses are structural relief can only be done by the zoning board. Unless the city council was to amend the codes, reduce setbacks and reduce some of those, that's a whole nother animal.
So yeah, I wanted to bring that up because it keeps getting talked that we've got control, but we don't on some things.
Understand.
My suggestion, and for like Mr. Bates' property, so pawn shops on the corridor, the council at the time in 2019 amended what was being done to add pawn shops back in. So I would like to see pawn shops being taken out of this because we specifically put them back in 2019. So I don't know why we would take it out at this time on Central Corridor, in the Central Corridor. And then as far as Mr. Merrick's property next to Walmart, those 5 businesses along there, I see no reason whatsoever for those to be included in this. That is not an area that should have a moratorium on storage garages or whatnot right next to Walmart, off the beaten path, back and tucked in behind everything, behind other industrial buildings. That area should be stricken from this. I don't know if that's something I should make propose an amendment right now, or if it's something that could be. We got 2 more readings.
I'll defer to legal on that process.
Yes, you can actually make a motion right now to amend it to not include that. And we haven't done any readings of it, so it's a pretty easy one. We would do that reading with your amendment included at this time.
Go ahead, and then I might make an amendment.
Go ahead. So Central Corridor, that was your emphasis. We have an existing business that is subject to the moratorium. I was stating earlier that the moratorium the only scope for the moratorium is new businesses wanting to site in the Central Corridor or Tower Terrace or Highway 13 that are specified in this matrix. I think, to your point, as we go through that decision cycle over the next year during the moratorium, the logic of decisioning that council made in 2019, if it was good decisioning, would carry through. And when the moratorium lifts, then pawn shops would still exist within the corridor. So I don't think the point of this is to preclude any business. It merely is to pause businesses. So that's the subtlety about what you just commented on. I guess what I'm thinking is there's probably a couple of unstated variations to this theme, but I think what we've done is painted this picture for Kara to put her legal superpower hat on and give us advice back. I do have one specific request sort of behind the scenes, Kim, and just take this as a recommended request and we can talk more about it, but it seems to me there's some subtleties for our broader business community to be able to consume this, or the businesses coming in. It would seem to me that we could develop a reasonably descriptive, simple logic flow chart that helps people understand where their condition is in any of this. Existing businesses, these are the things. You have significant damage to this level, this level, this level. Here's what happens under the moratorium. Versus new business coming in, what does that mean to them? So my only point is I think there's some way to depict this in a diagram way that helps people to appreciate the implications of the moratorium. And if that's a real bad idea, I will understand why you would counsel me on that.
A flow chart is always helpful to
Okay.
to not only those that are trying to wrap their heads around it and understand it as much as it is for us, the staff that has to deploy it. So that is the thing, moratoriums are always tricky. I mean, there's a lot of ins and outs in moratoriums, and you saw some of that conversation tonight. The conversation we're having today happens in many communities that put a moratorium in place, just as Mr. Merrick had said. Hiawatha had once done this and experienced how that worked as well. I do want to say though, with moratoriums, it does help set that base. It does help us take a broad look at what does the future look like. When you have a vision, and Mr. Bates even talked about it tonight, about how when we talked about these uses prior a couple of years ago, very much in support of what that looked like. Doing very similar things with this today with the moratorium. So flow charts are always very helpful for many, and continuing to work through these. There's always those caveats that we talked about too. When there is storm damage, what does that look like? We are never going to want to have a building sit open due to being damaged, not being able to move forward, put the roof back on, do those types of things. We want to keep those businesses vital, those buildings, those structures vital. We're not limiting anything from there. If we need to clarify that in more detail, then that's what we'll do so that we provide that clarity. And there is one other, I want to make sure we don't forget, and that is about the grocery and the neighborhood grocery. So make sure we talk about that as well.
I'll circle on that real quick.
Well, I think Will had something.
Just from what Grant had stated at the beginning of his statement there, that yes, more than likely that pawn shops, when the moratorium's lifted and comprehensive plans done, pawn shops will probably be permitted in the central corridor. But that for Mr. Bates' situation, that doesn't take into account natural disasters where it does not. It could, I mean, if there's a tornado comes through or another derecho, or if he has a fire, I mean, those things could hurt his business, and potentially he would not be able to rebuild his business because of this moratorium. So that's why I brought that up, because I'm pretty confident that it's going to go through into the future, but that's why.
Wait, Randy has something.
I just wanted to, Dave, I don't know if it comes to you or to Kara. One of the things that I would like to inquire about too is what truly is the definition of a pawn shop now? If there's no state filings or licenses tagged to that, I'm kind of thinking of a lot of resell retail, and we've got a lot of them in different communities as well. So I'd like for us to also kind of look at that as well too, just so we have clarity on that going forward, so that, you know, I think it's right, you know, to Mr. Bates as well too, is what does that mean? Because we're not being licensed that way. We're not being regulated under that any longer. So I think there might be a little bit of a definition correction there. I would be curious for us to just, if we could check into that as well too, please.
Give you the definition right now if you'd like.
Oh, very good.
An established.
Sorry, where's this definition from?
This is from the city code.
From our code.
Or from our code, yes, everything we give you from our code. An establishment where loans are offered on the security of personal property and where unclaimed property is sold. So a pawn shop has several functions, and of course, Mr. Bates mentioned as well. I mean, you have the sale of goods, but you also have the loan component, and the pawn shops are separated from the rest of retail only because of the loan component to that.
And a definition of a loan would be?
I don't define loan in the city.
Sure,
code.
nope, I understand, right? But I'm helping me walk through that process, right? It's an exchange of money for a return of interest or some kind of bearing. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking out loud there. So I don't want to beat this up, but I want to pause for us to think a little bit about that as well too. So thanks.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, one final comment. I mean, I understand Will's comment also about not including pawn shops. When I gave Dave my feedback on this, I did not have pawn shops included anywhere, or I would not have put them on the table, because I did not have any concern about it. So, and I know when we put this table together, we're trying to be a little more all-inclusive, but my concern is not just specifically about pawn shops, but as we go forward, whatever Kara can come up with, my concern is to making sure we are protecting all of our existing businesses. And I know we spend a lot of time on Mr. Bates's business, but I want to make sure if we can, even if we have to do an amendment and take a step back in 2 weeks, I'm absolutely fine with that, as long as we feel it's given the adequate protection to our existing businesses.
If council directs, I can do that. I can add in an amendment protecting existing uses so that they are not made legal non-conforming uses by this moratorium, but I would need direction from council to do that. And to be clear, that would mean that both Mr. Merrick and Mr. Bates's issues would be addressed by this. So an existing use would be able to expand, and an existing use would be able to rebuild the same way any other existing use is after a natural disaster or an accident.
Your Honor. I would like to make an amendment to the motion to the ordinance. Where in the heck are we even at? 23-26. With what our city attorney just said. Fully lost what you said. Make non-conforming.
My language would be, nothing in this ordinance is intended to create a legal non-conforming use from any currently existing use.
Exactly what she just said right
Currently vested use.
there. Yes. So I'd like to make an amendment to the ordinance for what the city attorney just said.
Second that amendment?
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to amend the ordinance. To add language to the effect that this ordinance is not intended to create a legal non-conforming use from any existing business. Okay, now discussion on the amendment, whether or not to amend. Discussion?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. This other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved. Now the ordinance reads that approving a moratorium related to select commercial uses along portions of Tower Terrace Road, Highway 13, and the Central Corridor zoning districts, subject to the condition that this ordinance will not be interpreted to create a legal non-conforming use with any existing business. Okay, now further discussion on the amended ordinance. Anything else to add, Dave? You look like you wanted to say
I
something.
just don't want to forget grocery stores. Don't want to hurry you, but I just wanted, if we want to talk grocery stores or not.
Say that again, sorry.
I don't know if you want to talk grocery stores. That was a late amendment to or that was a late addition to the ordinance, was the grocery store and grocery store neighborhood.
Okay.
Did you want to discuss that at all?
Do you want to just cover that real quick?
I'll cover it real quick. At the work session.
To make sure everyone understands, I don't want,
Yep. At the work session, I used grocery stores a lot as trying to give everybody a sense of scale when we were talking about retail sales, large and medium, that are part of this moratorium. I did not mean to imply that grocery stores are retail. They are a very separate use, but we talked about it at length using grocery stores. So we plugged it in here just in case, but if you do not want to include grocery stores as part of the moratorium along Tower Terrace, we would need that taken out or some direction on that. And the difference is I sent that email out. The grocery store neighborhood is typically under 10,000 square feet. I gave a couple of examples for that. Then a grocery store is over 10,000, your Aldi's, your Fairways, Hy-Vees, et cetera.
Does everyone understand that? Does anyone have a different opinion on whether or not that should be included?
No.
Go ahead.
I don't see why they should be. I think they should not be included.
Okay.
I don't think anyone would be concerned with a grocery store going in on Tower Terrace. That would be, I mean, we've got design standards in place. And I believe people that live up in that area would love to see some type of grocery store in that area. Same with along 13, and a neighborhood grocery store in the uptown is something that's been talked about, in the Brooks board has talked about trying to get something like that in the uptown area for a long time. So I wouldn't want to see a moratorium on those. I just would hope that someone would build one of those
Again, yeah.
soon.
Well,
This is only Tower Terrace though, right?
This only applies to
Only
Tower
Tower
Terrace,
Terrace, okay.
correct.
Tower
Well,
Terrace, and
yeah.
the idea is not to,
For a year.
again, it's not about whether or not something should be there. It's a certain use should be there. It's about where. Where is it most appropriate? And that's what this process is going to look at. And if a project comes in that everyone thinks is perfectly appropriate where they want to put it, then there's always the option to.
Sure.
This is not changing the zoning ordinance. This is just taking the opportunity to step back and take a big picture look at everything to determine what uses are appropriate where. And
I understand. I
Yeah,
fully
okay.
understand that, but I don't see, I don't know a spot along Tower Terrace that people would be upset about a grocery store going in.
I guess, Will, at a base level, I agree with that perspective. But from my vantage point and understanding a little bit of the history of the Tower Terrace neighborhoods and the concern about Tower Terrace development, I think we're talking about a year moratorium. I think it's okay for us to stand still on grocery stores along there, just so that we can holistically address the implications of a decision that we would make. And like the mayor said, it's about the location perhaps, not that we're preventing the business. And if Hy-Vee's got any ideas about putting a grocery store up on our part of Tower Terrace, that is going to take longer, just even to get through any of their planning activity before it comes to us. That's gonna exceed the duration of our moratorium. So I guess what I'm just saying is responsiveness to the neighborhood and the level of concern they've expressed over the last many years. I think it's prudent to include grocery stores because there's other impacts besides just the service that they're providing. So I'd advocate leaving them in.
Okay.
Other
But
discussion?
real quick.
Well, let's make sure everyone has a chance first, and then we'll come back. Okay, is that okay?
I don't have anything to add.
Sarah?
I would leave them in on Tower Terrace. I think if something came forward and it was, I'll pick on Trader Joe's just because my daughter likes to shop there, even though she's away at school, and came to us and said, we want this corner spot. Gosh, I think we'd really have to look at that, or name another one that's a mid-sized grocery, Fairway. I will also say though, I think the conversation about the other pieces that go around it. Everybody wants a grocery store, but people don't want the lights or people don't want the traffic. And I just know this when we built the Y, how long are the lights going to be on? What does this mean for the neighborhood? We all want to see it, but I think we're trying to be, the whole intent of the comprehensive plan moving forward is to be proactive and not reactive to what's coming in, and so that people understand what's happening there. If you're building your business there, who is your neighbor going to be? Are you complementary businesses to each other? Is it something that fits the neighborhood even with the design standards? Because it's my understanding with the form-based codes that we currently have, that as long as they meet this piece of it without the moratorium, not a lot to say what happens within that business as long as it isn't illegal because of the form-based codes that we have. So somebody can build their structure and then there it is. And I think, this is a developing corridor. This is supposed to be a corridor that is could be an east-west connector. We've got to be thinking of what's going to go there so that we're not down the road and suddenly everybody's like, why are you putting this on this main thoroughfare road? And it gives us a chance to pause while everybody catches up. So I advocate that we leave them in. I don't think there's that many lots that they could actually go on. They could handle a large grocery, maybe a medium.
There's two grocery stores. There's grocery and there's grocery store neighborhood. And the neighborhood's under 10,000 square feet. So
And we're leaving that in. So if a neighborhood grocery wants to come in.
No.
No,
I put both of them in because those are the examples I gave. So grocery is over 10 and that's your big boys. And then under 10 is for local examples, I think I used Nelson's Meat Market would be one. I think I used the Asian Food Market as another example of things that are under 10.
the only way, and I'm open to conversation on this, would be the neighborhood, if we wanted to allow to not take that out. But the medium can, I just think I say there's other things that go, I don't know, that go with it, that it's 1 year. I mean, we're not, it's 1 year.
Potentially.
Potentially.
It's gonna go longer if we
We can
extend.
talk about it.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
I mean, my concern, I mean, she brought up Trader Joe. My concern is if, let's say Trader Joe decided, hey, let's look at Tower Terrace Road for putting in a store, calls the city, well, we've got a moratorium right now. Oh, you know what? We'll go look in Cedar Rapids. They just don't want to deal with it. That's my concern with these, because this is something that's needed out there, but I think I'm in the minority, so I will drop it.
I think the idea is that we get one chance to do this right, especially in a developing corridor like Tower Terrace Road, like Highway 13. And we want to be thoughtful about it, and we want it be and proactive, so that if someone did come in and say, we want to build a grocery store, we would be able to say, here's where we envision it. And, you know, as development happens, everyone understands exactly what the potential uses will be, even though that land around them is not yet developed. They can have a clear understanding of, that's the whole purpose of the comprehensive plan. When you develop a parcel, you have some understanding of what could potentially happen around you, so no one's being surprised and we're not being reactive. And, you know, people 20 years from now saying, oh, this is not developing the way I thought it was supposed to be developing, and I'm not happy, and, you know, then we're dealing with conflict and with issues. So that way everyone's on the same page and everyone has a clear picture of how the big picture looks. And
I 100% agree with what you're saying. I'm just thinking grocery should be should not be in there. That's
any further discussion? Are we ready to vote? Okay. We're voting on the amended ordinance as amended. All those in favor of approving ordinance number 23-26, approving the moratorium related to selected commercial uses along portions of Tower Terrace Road, Highway 13, and the Central Corridor zoning districts, subject to the condition that the ordinance will not create a legal non-conforming use with any existing business. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, the motion is approved and the ordinance as amended is approved. Next, we have a public hearing on the request to rezone property from Ag Holding to PUD, Planned Unit Development, for property located south of Fernald Road and east of Bluegrass Street. This is a Rookwood Estates request. Public hearing is open. Dave, do you have a presentation?
I'll be brief. The applicant is seeking to rezone property from our Ag Holding District to PUD, Planned Unit Development, for approximately 121 acres located north of Highway 151 and south of Fernald Road, east of the previous Rookwood additions. It's a mix of approximately 577 residential units and 14 commercial lots. The units will be spread out from single-family, traditional duplexes, townhomes, and multifamily products. There is a preliminary site development plan and preliminary plat that is currently, will be at Planning and Zoning Commission next week. As we resolve just a few outstanding issues, the commission should be recommending approval of that item next week to the council, and this will all catch up together with the rezoning on the third reading. The rezoning is consistent with the East Marion sub-area plan that we had spent quite a bit of time on last year developing in partnership with the developer to create a plan that could really give vision to this property as well as vision to the several hundred acres to the east of the property and account for the airport impact on the runway. Planning and Zoning Commission did review this last month and did recommend approval 5-0.
Okay, the public hearing is open. Is anyone here to address council either in favor or in opposition? Please come forward. Please state your name and address.
Chad Pelly, 2799 Roy Karoff Drive, Marion. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Sorry, been a late night. So I just want a couple of comments. You know, this one here means a lot to me. I know a lot of you know I was born and raised, and except for a couple of years, have spent my entire life in this community. We grew up really poor. And so one of our biggest things is creating jobs and affordable quality housing in neighborhoods for all. This represents that. You're well aware of how much effort's been put in here as a partnership with the city and us. And we're excited about this project. Like Dave mentioned, great opportunities, you know, regional detention, trails, parks, the future elementary school. I can go on, but we're excited to get this one going. Appreciate all of your support to this date and looking forward to starting construction. Any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
Any questions? Thanks, Chad. Anyone else to address council either in favor or in opposition of this measure? Okay, did we receive comments outside the meeting?
No.
None? Please note that for the record. We'll close the public hearing, proceed to the
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 23-27, approving a request to rezone property from agricultural holding to PUD planned unit development for property located south of Furno Road and east of Bluegrass Street, Marion, Iowa. And this is Rookwood Estates LLC, and this is the initial consideration.
second. Been moved and seconded to approve the initial consideration of ordinance number 23-27, approving the request by Rookwood Estates to rezone property from agricultural holding to planned unit development for the property south of Furnow Road and east of Bluegrass Street. Discussion? Go ahead.
Dave, what was your comment just about that the ultimate intended development did incorporate some characteristics that would align well with runway 17 at the airport?
Correct. As part of the overall master plan of the East Marion sub-area plan, we identified the areas that would be immediately impacted by the runway. It's not so much this property, but it's property to the east. So it's just part of the entire study area that we looked at.
Okay, all right. Maybe this is not germane to this, but was there any additional considerations about wet versus periodically wet detention basins and waterfowl conflict?
Yeah, stormwater detention still being reviewed and looked at. We've identified a regional basin opportunity through the property. The wet dry discussion that remains to be designed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving ordinance number 23-27, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 23-24, approving a request to zone property from Lynn County Agriculture and USR Urban Service Area to SR-E Suburban Residential Estate for properties located along East Robbins Road between Meadow Knolls Road and Mulberry Drive, Marion, Iowa. And this is the final consideration.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the final consideration of ordinance number 23-24, approving the request to rezone property from Lynn County Ag to Urban Service Area, Suburban Residential Estate for properties located along East Robbins Road between Meadow Knolls Road and Mulberry Drive. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion is approved. At this time, we have a public forum, which is a time set aside for comments from members of the public on any topic. Anyone here to address council, please step forward, state your name and address.
Hello, everybody. My name is, just a second. My name is Dustin Mazgai. I live at P.O. Box 110 in Walford, Iowa. I'm here to talk to you guys today about 1501 First Avenue, Marion, Iowa. I have some paperwork for you guys. So in that packet there, you guys are gonna find all of the building inspection reports back to 2010. Every single one, you guys have had it, obviously in your system. Now, the point I would like to make today is not just about the landlord and the property management company. It's about how the government of Marion has handled when somebody makes a building complaint. Now, those inspections show that everything Casey Benevel that has said and everything I have said is documented over and over again in every single one of those building inspection reports. So when somebody calls and makes these complaints and it's listed in the reports over and over for 10 years, what normally a city council would do is have a building inspector come there, inspect the building, make sure there was electricity and basic necessities. Instead, what happened, the police were called. A man was kidnapped in his own home and assaulted. And they didn't just use the force just to do their job. When he was in handcuffs and had, officers on both sides of him, and he's clearly not a threat, they just yanked him back and forth. So he had to go to physical therapy. They slammed him up against a car when he's already handcuffed, all over a phone call that Alicia Abernathy made to the police department. And the problem here, guys, is, that's not how government should work. You don't need to have violence involved to replace windows. You don't need to have violence involved to just provide habitable living for the residents of Marion. So in these pictures in the packet, it shows in 2021, the inside view of a broken window in 2021. After that is the email from Nicholas Abalopsy, the mayor, dated September 9th. And September 2nd email from Ryan Waller, the city manager. The problem is I'm just reiterating the emails. It basically said everything's all fixed, it's all good, it's all within code. But if you fast forward to 2023, the same exact broken window is still there. You can tell by the shape of the crack, the same window. And the story that I've been getting, I read your guys' comment at the bottom. It said no evidence of electrical fire has been documented by staff for this unit. No maintenance requests to repair fire damage has been submitted by the previous tenant or documented by previous property manager for this unit. You guys are basically saying that my report about outlets catching on fire is not true. Unfortunately, when you look back in the building inspection reports, you see burnt outlets written over and over again. In one of the packets in the back, it says number 305 had a burnt outlet in 2019, and there's 20 other burnt outlets in there. Outlets should not catch on fire, and you see the same exact things listed over and over again. And the subject I'd like to talk to you guys today is water leaks. The first photo I have in here is a bunch of water leaks on the ground. It comes from the boiler in the house. And when all the water leaks out of the boiler, it all goes onto the ground. It creates mold and it creates no heat in the house. It creates frozen pipes. It creates third world living conditions. The picture you see with the carpet or whatever, that carpet is in front of the picture after it. It's just a big, long rectangle, probably from where I stand to the wall, of just inches of just sitting water. And you can't even breathe down there. And it's just very, very messed up that, you know, everything Casey's been saying for 3 years, there's been 5 or 6 different people coming in here, you know, getting the police involved. You know, Casey has had so many different charges over reporting this building. The Marion Police Department has started to target the family and friends of Casey. And that's not how a police department and a city hall should operate. You know, you shouldn't make a criminal out of somebody just because they report living conditions. And you guys also got to think about the viewpoint of all the neighbors that lived there. You know, they know Casey's coming here to report things. They see him getting beat up by the police in the parking lot. They hear the yelling and screaming outside his apartment. You know, like that sends a message to everybody in that house. If you contact City Hall, the cops are going to be at your door and you're going to have to go to the doctor because they roughed you up that bad. You're going to have to spend years and thousands of dollars in criminal charges just because you wanted to have a habitable living condition for people. And I really would like to either schedule a meeting with one of you guys, or I'd like in writing that you're not willing to meet with me so then I can take it to the next channels. Thank you for your time today, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else to address council? Okay, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Council comments? Ready?
I have nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Sarah? None.
One comment, Your Honor. You know, this was kind of like a work session. And I just really want to just emphasize, during our work sessions and exhibited tonight, I hope everybody understands when important issues come forward to us, we're willing to really examine them closely. And contrary to popular belief, we don't always agree, but our disagreement is informed by the consumption of facts. So I just wanted to get that on the record for everybody's awareness.
Gage? Okay, we have a closed session this evening.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to adjourn to closed session regarding personnel matters as permitted under section 21.51I of the Code of Iowa.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn to closed session regarding personnel matters as permitted under section 21.51I of the Code of Iowa. May we have the council's statement, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. I've reviewed the proposed subject matter for the closed session and find the same to be appropriate under Iowa Code, section 21.51I.
Thank you. Any discussion before we vote? Roll call?
Mr. Misquin?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mayor Abu Osley?
Yes.
Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
Ms. Menzer?
Yes.
Mr. Sternad?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. We're adjourned.